After months of negotiations, Toronto has secured nearly $500 million in federal funding to build housing. The Prime Minister and Mayor Olivia Chow announcing the deal today at an East End construction site. As Chris Glover reports, there are conditions.
Things are looking up when it comes to Toronto housing, was the message from Mayor Olivia Chow today as she toured with the Prime Minister a 900-unit housing project under construction, announcing a major deal had been struck.
With this new federal government support, the city will be able to build more affordable housing just like this project. It is beyond exciting.
The deal means the city gets $471 million from Ottawa, part of its Housing Accelerator fund. With the cash, Toronto plans to fast-track nearly 12,000 homes over the next 3 years and 53,000 over the next decade. Trudeau says the housing agreement is about more than just building units.
But it's also about changing the rules around densification and zoning so that more and more units can be built independently of the federal government.
But the feds say getting to this point wasn't easy.
And when it came to the City of Toronto, literally the country's largest city with the slowest permitting process anywhere in Canada, we realized the initial application was not up to snuff.
Toronto City Council applied for the money multiple times, the city ultimately agreeing to relax some building regulations, including allowing multiplexes of up to 4 stories and 4 units. Toronto also agreed to put more affordable rental units near transit.
The city will have no problem meeting any conditions because we want to build housing faster. We want to simplify the approval process.
City Council also agreed to consider in the new year increasing the building regulation limit of 4 units up to 6. It'll also take action to address renovictions, where landlords evict people under the guise of home repairs or upgrades. Combine the new $500 million from the feds with $350 million for housing from the province, and Toronto is building the momentum it needs. But advocates say it's still just a start.
City of Toronto needs to be receiving upwards of $1 to $2 billion a year in both grants and loans in order to make these programs work and deliver the affordable housing that we need.
Meaning even with this new housing deal today, Chow likely won't be able to stop advocating for more to fix Toronto's affordability crisis. Chris Glover, CBC News, Toronto.
The new funding announced today by the federal government is just a piece of a broader request from Mayor Olivia Chow, and she has been warning for weeks that if the rest of that cash doesn't arrive, it could be a big problem. Let's bring in Municipal Affairs reporter Sean Jeffords to break this all down for us. Sean, first, can you explain how this funding announced today is distinct from the other requests Mayor Chow has made?
So, Dwight, there are a lot of those requests out there to the federal government and to the province, for that matter. But this is the Federal Housing Accelerator Fund, and it literally does, or is aiming to do, exactly what it says in its title. It's supposed to speed up new home construction and building in the city. Now, it's different, it's distinct, as you mentioned, from a broader request, a $2.7 billion ask to the federal government for other funding. And that's resulting from a new deal that the city struck with the province about a month ago that will help upload some costs, take some financial pressure off the city in the form of the Gardiner Expressway and the Don Valley Parkway. Now, there are the other elements to this deal. It's a pretty large sum of money, and there's this big ask out to the federal government for more help, essentially for them to come to the table.
Now, you're right, it's a lot of money, and we understand it's for a number of priorities. So what exactly will the city need or use this money for?
So, Dwight, these are some other urgent needs that the city has on its plate right now. So that's support for shelters and to address the refugee crisis that is going on in the city right at this moment, but also for TTC subway cars. So as you know, since Mayor Olivia Chow was elected, she's been grappling with this refugee crisis, people coming to the city in large numbers, sleeping in the city's shelters and on the street in some cases. So she wants hundreds of millions of dollars to address that problem. You've also got aging subway trains on line 2, the Bloor-Danforth line. They need to be replaced. So that's what that money is essentially there for.
Now, we know that the money, so the province has agreed to contribute hundreds of millions of dollars, but all of that funding is contingent on Toronto receiving matching dollars from the federal government. So do we have any more indication coming out of the meetings today whether this might happen? And if it doesn't, what will that mean?
That's right, Dwight. There's a key elephant in the room here. As you mentioned, the province has agreed to contribute this funding, but it's all contingent on matching funds. And so far, the federal government has not agreed, as of today, as of this announcement, to come to the table with that money. So what I expect to see, and what I'll be watching for really, is the city to start to ramp up the pressure on the federal government to make a commitment before the budget process. So that starts early in January, and I think you're going to see the mayor really ramp up the rhetoric. She was talking earlier about how if the shelter supports aren't delivered alone, that could account for a 6% tax increase, property tax increase. And we've got a press conference scheduled tomorrow from Alejandra Bravo, the councillor for Davenport, who is going to be with shelter advocates who effectively, they say that they're going to call on the federal government to come to the table and bring this money and support the city. So obviously this is a conversation that isn't over.
Municipal Affairs reporter Sean Jeffers reporting from City Hall for us tonight. Thank you for this, Sean.
Thanks, Dwight.
You won't have to pay more to ride the TTC next year. The Commission's board